It's time for another power-packed episode of Headspace with Dr. Mike. Each week, Dr. Mike is committed to addressing real life, sometimes polarizing and controversial issues, while offering practical and informed insight. Listen in as we discuss hot topics that matter to us and the communities we live in.
Good morning, Headspacers. Good morning. Hope you're all doing well. It is Saturday here. It is about, oh man, my beard is doing some funky stuff. It is 11 o'clock. We broadcast on Saturdays at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. So I just want to give a shout out to all of you who are tuning in. Make sure you like, share, all that fun stuff with your family and friends. And let us know. Hit us in the chat. Let us know where you're at. Let us know that you're on. We're excited about having you here. It is me alone. So this is always dangerous when they put me on the show alone. Got to give some love to Elevation Global Media. Thank you so much for just all your support. And if you are interested in just taking your communication platform, network, whatever, to the next level, make sure you check out Elevation Global Media. They are just awesome people and definitely are about making dreams become reality. My mama is in the house. Hey, mama, good to see you. Glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in. Then I also want to give a shout out to our podcast listeners. Man, podcast listeners from all over the country. I get DMs all the time saying, hey, we are so excited about what you guys are doing with Headspace with Dr. Mike, and we only want to go higher and higher. So, man, I tell you what, we got a lot going on these days. One of the first things out the gate is everybody, we are coming down the pike for elections. Super Tuesday is coming down the mountain. We are at the end of October. First, before I even go there, can we talk about the fact that October is just about over? Like, October is over. Like, Halloween is on Monday. That means that we hit November 1st on Tuesday, which means now we got Thanksgiving and Christmas. I am pumped about that because that means that I am a step closer to being able to justify listening to Christmas music. Man, I'm always ready to listen to Christmas music, and I don't need much of an excuse to do it. Actually, to be honest with you, I can listen to Christmas music all year long, but it does seem a little out of place when I'm listening to it in August. So November, I can justify it a little bit better. And I believe November 1st, once we hit that, it is peppermint mocha season, because you pumpkin spice lovers, I don't like pumpkin in anything, and I'm okay with that. Like I don't like pumpkin in anything. So you guys get out the way. It's time for peppermint mocha. It's time for peppermint mocha season. My goodness. Yeah. But getting back to this, Super Tuesday is coming up. It is a week from Tuesday. And that means that everybody say everybody who is 18 and older and is legally allowed to vote, which is a subjective word these days in some places. But if you can vote, go vote. It's just always amazing to me when we have a whole bunch of people who complain and fuss about stuff, but then they aren't willing to vote. And I get it. There's some people who say, you know what, my vote doesn't count. And I can understand how you would feel that way sometimes. Like, seriously, I can totally get that you feel that way sometimes. But at the same token, I do have enough faith in the system to say that, you know what, it still works. It may not go the way I want it to go, but it still works. And so, and I mean, I think we've seen that. I mean, even with the people that said that the elections were rigged and that sort of thing, when the experts came in to kind of study it and determine that it wasn't, a lot of people, there were differences that were made. There were differences that were made. And so I just think that it's important that you go out and vote. I actually went and voted the first day of early voting here in Maryland. I voted on Thursday. So a story, when I first started working for the state, found out that we got leave we actually got extra leave, putting out our leave to serve as election judges. And I ended up signing up Then found out we got paid to do it, which I thought was cool, like nice little extra little piece of cash. And I enjoyed it a lot. Like I really actually enjoyed working the elections and just getting to see the behind the scenes from the standpoint of the election polls. And so I did that. So every election since then, I actually have been a part of it. This is the first election season that I'm actually not a part of it because I have some other things I have to do on election day. And then once, the rule here in the county that I live in is you have to be able to be an election judge on election day, and then you're considered for early voting. But because I've done several early votings, been a chief judge for many of them, they actually called me up, but it was just too late. I just couldn't throw things out of my calendar and stuff. And so this is the first time I actually am not working the polls. And while I love the experience, I'm not mad about it because it's a full day event. Like you had to show up at the poll at 5:30 in the morning, and then the polls close at 8 p.m. But you can't leave until things are shut down. And if you're a chief judge, like I have been, you have paperwork that you have to get filled out. And so you were leaving like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And then on election day, it's even crazier because there are things that you didn't necessarily have to do for early voting. Early voting, you kind of keep the place set up every day because it's like election day 8 days long, right? So all you're doing is just shutting things down, but you're not closing the polls. And so what was nice about early voting was I would do the first 4 days, and then I was done with my commitment. So the other 4 days, the people that came in for that group, they actually had to close things down. So it was a little different for them. We had to set things up, but they had to close things down. But on election day, you actually have to set things up and close it down. So that's even longer night. But it was refreshing because you felt like you were part of it. Then you can go home and kind of watch the results. So this year, I'm going to actually be doing a gig, so I'm going to be away from places. And so it is nice to actually just be able to sit and watch the results. Watch the results. I am a political nerd when it comes to things like that. I do like to watch the results and see. I mean, we got a lot of cases on the line here. We got a lot of things on the line here, and go out and I just think you just got to voice your vote. So make sure you are taking advantage of that. Here's the other piece about voting too, that for a long part of the history of America, not everybody could vote. That's just a reality. Not just people of color like myself, but women, regardless of their color, weren't allowed to vote. And I just think that that's important to note that you know if you want to see a change happen, you got to voice your concerns. And it's not just about voting for personalities. I mean, there are different measures that are on the board. I know for the county that I live in, one of the things on the was to lower the minimum age for a person being able to run for county council. And I think that there is something to that. I think that you know, that is something to be considered. Like, is there a reason why you have to be a certain age to run for certain offices? Then another thing we have on ours is well, of course, in Maryland, we are dealing with whether or not marijuana should be legalized. And so that's going to be a fascinating little topic because that opens up a whole lot of other worms. Now, here's the thing about some of that. For those of you, when you're voting for those things, know that just because you vote for it on election day doesn't mean that it's just going to happen overnight. Like, once things are tallied up and then the results come in, like for us with the marijuana thing, they may say yes, it's overwhelmingly yes, or the numbers are saying yes, but that won't go into effect till July 1st of next year. So actually, I don't even know if it's July 1st. It may even be October 1st. Yeah, I got to check on that. But either way, it's not going to happen like November 15th. So I don't want you thinking that you're going to be able to go and, for Thanksgiving and you're going to be able to pick up some turkey and some macaroni and cheese and some bud. Like, you may not be able to do that for legal purposes. So just keep that in mind when you're voting for these things, that they don't just happen overnight. Because once the referendum goes into effect, then they have to put measures in place. Like, there are things that have to go into place. Like, for instance, I'm going back to the marijuana thing because it's a big topic. Then they got to like figure out, all right, so how are we going to regulate this? What are the rules of engagement with this? Like, you know, are you allowed to like what needs to be are you allowed to like do this on the street? Are there certain locations where you can and can't do it? Like, where can you buy these things at? Dispensaries, are there regulations on the proximity of the dispensary to a school, for instance? Like, those are things that have to go into it, and I think that those are things that is important for us as citizens to just know about, like know how things are made. I think back to Schoolhouse Rocks, and there's a one talking about this is a bill, and this is how a bill becomes a law, and it kind of is a little cute little song that you sing, and all this other stuff. But it really explained the fact that there is a process. By the way, you all know my definition of process: series of events that must take place in order for one big event to happen. Series of events that must take place in order for one big event to happen. So, like anything else, getting laws made and getting them in important. Let's see what else is happening in the world. So, Twitter has a new owner, Elon Musk. Very fascinating. Elon Musk is a character, isn't he? He is definitely a character in himself. Very fascinating dude in the sense that you know, little quirky and very opinionated about things. Um, some would argue that he has a little too much money to deal with. I don't know. I don't know. So I am not a huge Twitter person anyway. Like, I have a Twitter account. From time to time, I play around with my Twitter account. I think you know, it kind of like got really weary on me, regardless of how I feel about the former president. Just that whole process just got it. It wore me out, to be honest with you. And so Twitter just really didn't really do much for me. And so my social media really doesn't consist of Twitter. So I'm not totally I'm not really phased by it. Just because Twitter is not something that I use a lot, but I do know that a lot of people base a lot of things on their Twitter. What I will say though is that some discouraging things are coming out. We all know that there are actors who just do stuff just for S&Gs. You can look that up if you want, what S&Gs stand for, but they just do things for principle. And lately, there have been they were saying that the use of the N word has increased like over 1,000%, which I wasn't good at math, so I don't even know how things go beyond 100%. I don't know how things go beyond 100%. So 1,000%, that's a lot. And I think that there are some people who probably will take advantage of it because they can. You have what are called keyboard pirates, I think they're called, where they go and just type stuff and there's no ramifications for what happens for them. So there are those people, but then there are other people who are just doing it just to provoke. And I think that's very dangerous. But at the same time, you got to recognize what that is. And so anyway, we shall see what will happen with Twitter. I did think it was funny that he said when he put his title on his Twitter account, he said Chief Twit. I just thought that was just funny to me. So anyway, let's go ahead and take a quick break.
2020 gave birth to a lot of endeavors. Here in 2021, everyone has had to get in touch with their inner producer. Our man Garrett Brace is one of those guys you need on your team. We at Headspace with Dr. Mike are clients of his as he ensures all of our audio files are crisp, clean, and cool. If you have any audio, video, and even lighting needs, hit him up at G Walt Services on Instagram. Remember, G Walt Services, servicing all your audio, video, and lighting needs.
So, man, I tell you what, when I always talk about my 40s and how I have really been growing up and into this decade of my life. And it has been definitely been an experience, just understanding what my body is doing these days, but then also just understanding who I am as a person, as a father, as a husband, as a professional, as a man, kind of figuring out what it is that I believe God has called me for the rest of my life and that sort of thing. And one of the areas that I really, really, really have to work on, and have to be intentional about is not necessarily going with my knee jerk reaction. I'm not sure where you are with the zodiac signs, but I do think something about. I don't go and look up my horoscope and that sort of thing, but I do kind of think there is something for your birth signs. Like I'm an Aries, and Aries are known to be a little hot headed and to be to be kind of we kind of come in hot, but then we do simmer out a little bit. And there's other pieces about us too. We tend to be a little petty too, but that's another conversation for another day. And one of the things that I do, because Aries are fire signs, and so fire signs tend to come in hot and that sort of thing. One of the things that I've been challenged to do by a colleague of mine is to just simmer. And she'll remind me, you know what, Mike, just simmer. And so that's what I'm going to say today for my heads up, just simmer. There are times where we have to move in the moment, right? There are times where that happens. There's something that's going on. You kind of have to make a just go with your instincts and kind of make a move. But there are other times where, you know what, if I make a move right now, it really could have a lot of implications for later on down the road. And so one of the things that I want to think about, hey, Vitris, good to see you. Good to see you, Aunt Vitris. Thank you for tuning in today. One of the things that I've realized that I need to do, and this is biblical, y'all, because the Bible really talks a lot about, making sure you're paying attention to the words that are coming out of your mouths and understanding that the power of the tongue is life or death is in the power of the tongue. The power of life and death is in the tongue. Understanding that we don't necessarily have to respond right away to everything that comes on board. And one of the things that I want to challenge you all is to take some time to just simmer. Some of my favorite dishes, my wife makes an awesome chicken noodle soup. And one of the things that I appreciate about her chicken noodle soup is that it's a half day event. It's not something that she just whips up in 20 minutes and says, here's your soup. But when she makes it, from the ground up, it's an all day event. And that reason is because it's simmering, right? The flavors from the chicken and the chicken broth and the bones of the chicken, and then they're marinating with the onions and the carrots and the celery and even just the seasonings that are placed inside of the pan, right? The pot, they simmer. And what's happening there is that everything is kind of taking everything in, and it's making a response. Watch what I say here. It's making a response based on that chemistry, based on all the elements coming together. And so there are times where when we're making action right in the moment, there's information we may not have. There are points of view that haven't been considered yet, right? There are facts that haven't been discovered yet, right? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times we're making these moves based off of our gut and our knee jerk, but at the same time, are they always educated and informed the way they need to be? And so what we want to do is we want to make sure we're just simmering. And there are times where what we have to do is we have to take everything into consideration. And then sometimes what we have to do is we have to keep our attitudes in check. Because I know for me, I come in hot. I'm going to go ahead. Look, I went through school, debate, did the whole debate, the speech thing. Using words is a thing that I do for a career. And if I really wanted to hurt you, I could really hurt you with my words. And the thing about it is, you can't always take those things back, right? The damage is done. Once it's out there, it is out there. When I teach communication, one of the things I talk about is the fact that communication is one of those things that once you throw it out there, you can't pull it back. Yeah, you can do some things to try to fix things. You can try to put a band-aid on some things. You may have to do a little bit of surgery to get things fixed, but at the end of the day, it will never be the same because you threw that out there. So one of the challenges I want to give to you all is to make sure that you're just simmering sometimes. There's some times where you just need to simmer. You need to kind of let everything kind of come together. You need all the information to come together. Sometimes what'll happen is you give people a rope they can hang themselves, right? You give them enough yard to kind of hurt themselves. And what ends up happening is they'll end up sometimes, and you don't even have to do anything. It's just a matter of time, right? It's a matter of time. So one of the things I want to encourage you all is to just simmer. Depending on what is going on, just simmer. I'm simmering. And, I'll even say this, and I'm simmering. Sometimes what I'll say is, I'll say, let me sleep on it. Let me go ahead and give it some thought. Let me sleep on it, because I have found with myself that when I am dealing with something, sometimes it's a matter of me going to sleep and kind of resting and seeing where it sits once I wake up again. I think some of that is just the Lord kind of dealing with me, kind of letting me meditate on it. I meditate on it day and night, right? It's the whole idea of the Holy Spirit kind of just coming in and kind of just is marinating some things inside of me. And, because let's keep it real, sometimes things come at us, our pride is really affected, right? Our pride is impacted. There's some things that are happening, and it's like, you know what? I feel embarrassed. And so our defense mechanism gets in place, and it tells us to do what we have to do to save us from embarrassment, or to protect us from embarrassment, or protect us from getting hurt, right? We do that. We have these coping mechanisms. We have these defense mechanisms that come into play, but it's not always the best thing for the moment. One of the things we have to think about is relationship and the relationships that we are in. And do we want to necessarily damage these relationships because of a moment in time? Got to look at the big picture. So one of the things I want to encourage you all to do is make sure you are just simmering, and that's my heads up.
Follow the Headspace with Dr. Mike show on all social media platforms at Headspace DM. We want to keep you up to date on all of our hot topics and keep the dialogue going even after the show. We also value what's important to you and your community. DM your show ideas to us on Instagram or Facebook. The next time you log on, you may hear Dr. Mike discussing the very topic or issue close to your heart.
So, for whatever reason, all of my chats are not coming through. So I'm looking at it. Kevin, good to see you, brother. Kevin is in Denver. Good to see you, brother. And he was giving some comment about salted caramel mochas are really good. I'm not a huge caramel fan. I don't know what that's about. I'm just not a caramel fan. And all it is, isn't it like sugar? Like just sugar, and it's been heated or something? But he does love peppermint mochas too. That's why we get along, my friend. That's why we get along. That's why we get along. So y'all, have y'all been paying attention to, we're talking about these elections and stuff. Have y'all been paying attention to what happened to Paul Pelosi? That's a little discouraging. It's a little discouraging now. Paul Pelosi is the spouse of our speaker, Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And again, this goes back to regardless of where you feel about your politics, and that's where you're at, and you're allowed to be that. You're entitled to be there. No one deserves to have someone break into their house in the middle of the night and beat them with a hammer. So I don't care what side of the aisle you sit on. Anybody who doesn't talk about how that's a bad thing, that's a problem with me. Our governor here, he's a Republican, and he has not agreed with Nancy Pelosi on things, but he was one of the first ones to tweet about how that's unacceptable, and it is. And now some of the words coming out is that the attacker was looking for Nancy. We already know that she is considered an enemy of a lot of extremists, from even just the video that we saw from January 6th. But I don't care who it is. I mean, Mitch McConnell, if somebody broke into the house and attacked his wife, or McCarthy, McCartney, is it McCartney or McCarthy? the minority set to be potentially the next Speaker of the House for the Republican side of it. If anything like that happened for them, he lives in California too, and that would be a problem. Like I would just have a problem with that. Nobody deserves that, and I do think that I don't know, has civility just gone out the door? What's really going on? What's really going on here, y'all? Well, I mean, you know what? The spiritual side of me knows what's going on. It's called sin. And I think that a lot of times, I am unapologetically a Christian, and I'm going to speak what I'm going to speak, right? And I get it where you may be in your religious journey, and that's where you're at. We can have great conversations about that. I'm going to have great respect for you. But what I will tell you is that I am always cautious about any type of religious frame of mind that doesn't acknowledge sin. If you can't acknowledge sin, that's a problem. And so sin, as man and women, we are born into the world dirty individuals. Like there is nothing redeeming about us. There is nothing redeeming about us. We're depraved, and as a result of that, this is how it shows up. This is how it shows up. It shows up as very selfish, self-centered. It shows up as one-sided, right? It shows up as living in the moment and doing what feels right for me at the time. And you have to be mindful of that. And that's why we're having the issues that we're having, y'all. That's why we're having the issues that we're having. And to be honest with you, it's only going to get worse, because I think that anytime human beings just don't have any respect for each other's lives, that's a problem, and that's sin. And until we start acknowledging that, and start encouraging people to develop a life where they are seeking guidance from the Holy Spirit and really letting the Holy Spirit guide and control and move them, we're going to keep having news stories like this. And it's so sad to watch. The situation in Ukraine and Russia. I mean, same idea, sin. Like you have this selfish, self-centered leader who doesn't want to lose power, and for whatever reason his pride may be impacted. I believe, and I'm not a huge historian, but I believe that, when you look at the history of Vladimir Putin, one of the things you know about him was that he was former KGB, and I think that he thinks back to what life was like for him back when it was the Soviet USSR. And there's a faction of them that believe that, we're having rough times financially and politically and stuff like that. We need to go back to that for control. And that's what it's about, is control. And so just that whole situation, I'm praying for our nation. I just think that that's just silly. I get so upset when we can't have just conversations. And you can have heated debates. Look, I go to my parents' house and, we'll have debates about things. Sometimes I just like the debate just to ruffle feather. Some of y'all hang out with me. Y'all know I just like to ruffle feathers sometimes. I may not fully agree with the side that I'm taking, but I'm just playing. I don't calling a devil's advocate, because my pastor says the devil doesn't need an advocate, and that is true. He doesn't. He can do bad all by himself. But the idea is, like, sometimes I do like to just think outside the box, which is one of the reasons why we created Headspace, because I like the idea of having discourse, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about what may be going on. So anyway, just praying for our nation. Let's see what else is happening. Scrabble variants. So now they're saying that these different variants of the COVID that's coming through is we call them Scrabble variants. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what that means. Scrabble variants. The majority of new COVID-19 infections in the U.S. are coming from Scrabble variants. I don't know if that's just they're just making up their own, depending on what they latch on to. They make up their own rules. I don't know. What I do know is that I got my second booster last Sunday, and I messed around and got my booster and my flu shot. And it took me a couple days to get my life together. It wasn't as horrible. Like, I could do some functional things. Like, I actually could do a little bit of work, and I went to class on Tuesday night, but I definitely had to rest a little bit. So one thing that was fascinating to me though was when I was sitting down for my booster. I had gotten the Moderna, and I got the Moderna for my first 2 shots, and then my booster was a Moderna as well. And so the pharmacist that was doing the shots, he asked, he said, what was your response to Moderna? I said, oh my gosh, I was under the bed for all of them. I was under the bed. And he said, well, do you want that again? And the way he looked at me like, why would you put yourself through that again? And I said, well, do I have an option? I said to him, I said, well, I want the best protection. So whatever is going to give me the best protection, give it to me. He said, well, actually, I'm going to give you the Pfizer because what the scientists are saying is that it's not, it may not hurt anything. It actually may work better if you go the other route. So since I've been getting Moderna, go ahead and get the Pfizer antibodies or whatever it is that goes into you. And that sort of thing. I mean, look, I'm convinced we just might be glowing in the dark soon, like those fish that are like 30,000 feet under the water. We may very well be glowing in the dark too. But at the same time, I do have faith in the scientists and the doctors, and so that's where I'm at. And knock on wood, it's worked so far because we had COVID all in the house about a year and a half ago. And praise be to God, it skipped over me. So look, keep me covered. Just say it. So yeah, when he said that, and so I'm wondering if maybe my response wasn't as bad as the last times, or if it just is what it is. And then I don't know if it was all the flu shot, all the COVID booster. I don't know. But what I do know is I'm boosted and I'm ready to attack the flu season. How's that? And some people say, "Well, I don't get the flu shot." Look, I got you. Like if that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. Just know, just getting those things do not mean that you're not going to get the illness, right? It does not say that. No one did just said it. I think some people get a little confused by that. It does not mean that you're not going to get sick. But what it does do is it helps alleviate what the sickness could look like, right? And I'm a firm believer that I think those things kind of kicked in and helped out when they needed to. And so just understand that you're not, no one's saying you're not going to get, I don't know, people say, oh, I got the flu when I took the flu shot. I get it. Like there's other variables that could go into it. Like the depending on when you got your flu shot, the strain that you got the flu shot to protect against may not be the strain that you were infected with. Or imagine what, like, I said this one bird, I said, well, can you imagine what it would, if you felt like that with the flu shot, can you imagine what it would have felt like without it? The flu is no joke. That's why when they were talking about COVID at the very beginning, they were like a big flu. I said, well, I don't want the flu. I don't want the flu. The flu ain't no joke. People die from the flu. And so I was like, yeah, can you imagine what life would have been like had you not had the shot? So that's kind of my view on it. But you have to do what you have to do with your body and take care of yourselves. But I'm trying to take care of myself and got that. So I am very grateful for that. Yeah. So anyway, I was wondering, how are we doing with our fantasy football teams? Any fantasy football players out there? Anybody got fantasy leagues? I'm actually doing pretty well in my fantasy football, and I'm gonna tell y'all something. I think fantasy football, the one problem I do have is there are times where I forget. There are times where I forget that I have to just check my people. Especially now, it gets really tricky because you're getting all these buys, and so the different teams have the buys, and so if you're not paying attention to it, one of your players may be on buy, and then the other piece of it is you can't wait till Sunday because the games start on Thursday. And because we had the Ravens play Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Thursday night, and so you got to keep that in mind too. And then the other piece of it is you also have, sometimes they're playing in England, like some 2 teams are playing in England, and so that means you wake up on Sunday and already you're already in a deficit because you didn't play some people, or you played some people that ended up being out. and they're playing in England, and the day has started, right? So you just gotta be careful with that. So this time of year, be careful with your fantasy league. I'm actually doing pretty good. I think I'm having a winning season in all of them. There is one, I'm 4-3 in one of them. But then the other one, I'm actually like 5-1, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, that can't be it. I gotta be a little more than 5-1 because there's more. Okay, there's one where I'm 5-2. All right, and then there's another one where I'm 4-3. So I'm having winning seasons so far. The one that I'm 4-3 in, I need to get that together because there's some money on the line for that one. That's with my fellow biggest loser peeps. We are biggest loser, not just my cast, but cast from other seasons. We've been doing a fantasy league ever since I've been involved in Biggest Loser. So we've 10 years now. So we do it, and we do a little we put a pot of $50 in, and I actually won last year. I actually won $100 from it. So I gotta get it together. Can we talk about my Ravens versus Tampa Bay? Man, I tell you what. Look, I always have faith in the Ravens. That was a fun game. That was a fun game because my best friend from college, Josh Sherwood. If you follow me on Facebook, you know that I talked about him. That's my dude, man. Josh is from Pensacola originally. And somehow or another, I'll never forget how we actually met. We lived in the same dorm. The dorms that I lived in were called the Hill, and they were a collection of like 4 buildings. And so he lived in one of the buildings, I lived in another. But somehow or another, we got connected one day and found out that we had the same birthday, same exact birthday. I think he's younger than me. Or he's older than me because I think he was born in the morning, I was born in the afternoon. But we always joked about how we were twins. Anyway, our junior and senior year, we ended up being roommates, and just one of my best. He was one of the groomsmen in my wedding, and that sort of thing. Anyway, he's a Tampa Bay fan, and it was nice just talking trash to him. But that whole situation was interesting. I'm not going to read too much into it, although I can suspect that Tom Brady probably has been distracted a little bit. I just can't imagine going through a major life crisis like that and then also trying to prove that you still belong on that field. Me personally, I think that Kenny Rogers' words, know when to fold him, know when to hold him, know when to walk away, and know when to run. But at the same token, I can't, Tom Brady, that's what he does. That's his thing. He's a football player. And so I almost wonder if the reason why he's made himself stay in is to keep him occupied. Like nothing else is going right in hwas world, but football does. And so with that, I actually feel for him. I was never really a Tom Brady fan because he played for the Patriots and they were big rivals of the Ravens. And to be honest with you, you always just used to get sick of hearing them. But you had to respect it. Like you really did have to respect it. There was some little cheating-ish stuff that appeared to be going on with his time there. But yes, I have to say, Kevin said, I don't do fantasy football, but my Broncos aren't doing good. I'm hoping that we don't go 2-6 at all. I know, Kevin, we're going to talk about that in a few moments. This was a good game. And yes, I was pulling for the Ravens. Thank you, brother. We're playing you guys soon, actually. I feel like we're playing you guys in a couple weeks. But anyway, he's rooting for Denver. But I feel for him. I actually do feel sorry for him. One, because I just feel sorry that his marriage is, I believe in the power of marriage. I believe in marriage being awesome. But I also believe that marriage is work. It is work. It is work. Like it's work. And it's not all cookies and cream every day. I mean, we see that. And so anytime I hear of someone's marriage falling apart, especially when you're dealing with kids and all that stuff, that does break my heart. So I do feel for him. I'm not going to get into whether or not he was wrong. Giselle was. That's not our business, to be honest with you. Like another thing I've learned about marriage is that what you're going through, not everybody's going to understand it, right? They're not going to understand all the dynamics. They're not going to understand everything that goes into it. They don't understand, you're bringing two depraved human beings together and telling them to make this thing. And so I just feel for him. So heart goes out to Tom Brady in that situation. I'm not going to say thank you for the distraction, but I am grateful that we won that game. Let's take a quick break.
Our world is filled with polarizing topics that land most people on one side or the other. The Headspace with Dr. Mike team isn't afraid to take them on. Monthly, we will invite people on both sides of some of the most controversial topics, from the serious to the silly, to debate their positions. We look forward to charged discussions that will inform and entertain. DM your head-to-head show ideas to us on Instagram or Facebook at Headspace DM.
So getting back to Kevin, your Denver Broncos, man, I really want to see Russell Wilson win. And he's not. It's not going so well for him. So I don't know how that's going to play out. But I've always been a fan of him from a distance. Not when he's playing the Ravens, of course. Although we've done relatively well playing against him when we played against him with when he was with Seattle. We actually did relatively well with them. But I hope you Denver can pull that together. I don't need y'all to pull it together though before we play y'all. I don't need y'all to pull it together before we play y'all, because that's not how we're doing this. We don't want that. But I do want to make sure. I do want to get it together. And I'm trying to look here and see the schedule. Yep, we do play Denver. We play Denver on December 4th. So, and I think it's here. Yep, they're here. They're here in Baltimore. So that'll be fascinating to see. Denver Broncos. Yep, 1:00 game. So then that's fascinating. I am fascinated by the fact that we're playing so many teams from other divisions. Like we played the Giants. We're playing the Saints next week. We played the Buccaneers last Thursday. Next Monday we're playing the Saints. We're playing the Jags. Although the Jags, are they in AFC? Denver is in AFC, but then we're playing the Falcons. Yeah. So the big games haven't happened yet, though. One of the big games with the what's it called? What are they? The Bengals, the Cats. We did play them once already, and we got to see them again. Actually, yeah, we see them again at the end of the season. So that's going to just be heartbreak football all over again. And then we haven't even had our Steelers games yet. So that's going to be good. We play the Jaguars over Thanksgiving break. Yeah. Anyway, nonetheless, trying to figure out how that's going to work with you guys. The offense is in shambles and the D is really good. You talking about Denver, Kevin? Yeah. Now I tell you what, y'all are missing homeboy that ended up going out, Von Miller. I think that's who it is. Yeah, y'all are really missing him because he is really making a name for himself over in Buffalo. But nonetheless, who are y'all rooting for? What y'all got going on? Hey, Hawaii, y'all. Did y'all hear about this? Hawaii. The Hawaiian Islands are a series of volcanoes, right? I think we all know this. And one of the things that, there are some parts of Hawaii that are perpetually always like erupting, so to speak, But apparently there is a big volcano that is like kind of crying out. It's called the Mauna Loa, Earth's largest active volcano, which continues to be in a state of heightened unrest, according to an update from the United States Geological Survey. Yikes. So I want to make sure I make this clear, because I don't want anybody DM me. The agency points out that Mauna Loa is not erupting and that there are no signs of an imminent eruption at this time. So, but there's just unrest. I don't know how that works. Like, if it's not erupting, but it's having unrest, I don't know what that means. Somebody help me. Like, It was increased. The volcano's heightened state of unrest with increased earthquake rates started in mid September 2022. So it's elevated size. I mean, I feel like they're all connected, right? The earthquakes there's a shifting happening, and the shifting in the plates, and eventually like the gases and stuff are going to come. I didn't pay that much attention in earth science. That was one of those classes I was just taking to get done in college. I'm not gonna lie. So I didn't pay that much attention as much as I probably should have. But earthquake activity has been increasing from 5 to 10 earthquakes a day since June 2022 to some 10 to 20 earthquakes a day in July and August, according to the Geological Survey. So Mauna Loa covers half of the island of Hawaii, and it has erupted 33 times, but it last erupted in 1984. So it's erupted 33 times. So it actually had a full-blown eruption. And the last time it did it was in 1984. A whole lot of building has happened since then. So Lord have mercy. I hope that they get that together. Yeah, I hope they get that together. Let's pray for the people of Hawaii. Let's pray for the people of Hawaii. Powerball. So the jackpot is at $825 million. I don't play the Powerball, but I think I'm going to go grab a ticket. Just a ticket. I'm just going to take one. Say what you want, judge who you want, judge. Say what y'all want to say. I'm going to get me a ticket. What will y'all do if you win $825 million? What would y'all do? Like, I'm serious. Like, what would you do? I mean, so $825 million. Of course, there's a lot of taxes. So let's see. Powerball after taxes. Let's see what the lump sum is. So you're going to pay your taxes. But if you win the jackpot, you still walk away with $410 million. I just need one of those. I just need 1 million. And you know what's funny? If I win $410 million, yes, I'm quitting my job. Like there's just not, I mean, I don't even know how anyone works with that amount of money sitting in their bank. Like, I'm being real. Come on, y'all. Let's talk to me. I'm being real. I am quitting. Yes, we're quitting jobs. Like 410. Yes, we're quitting jobs. 410 million. But if I win $1 million, like if I, because sometimes what you can do is you can get a few of the numbers to get. I don't really know. I'm not like a professional lottery player, but I know that if you get like if I just get $1 million, I'm not quitting my job. I'm gonna feel a little nicer working. Would you quit for $1 million? Like, would you quit your job for $1 million? Like, I'm just curious. Like, would you? Come on, y'all. Y'all are in the chat. Let me know. What would y'all do? You win the $410 million. Are we in agreement that we're quitting our jobs? Are we in agreement that we're quitting our jobs? Come on, help me out. I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. Are we in agreement that we're quitting our jobs at $410 million? $410 million. Yes, I'm quitting my job. What is always fascinating to me was when you hear about lottery winners and how lottery winners, they go broke after they get their winnings. And I never understood that. Like, I don't even know where I could spend $410 million. Like, I don't know where I could spend that. Like, Ariel said, yep. She said, my sister said, yep. She quit. I bet you are. Like, I just, $400 million, $410 million. Yeah, like that's a lot. Like, I almost even feel like I could like put the if it's $410 million, I could literally put the 409 million somewhere and let it just collect interest. And work off of that 1 million for a little bit. Like I don't know what I do. Well, I do. I have in my mind. I have some things that I would do. Like I already have said that Chevelle and my parents. I mean, what I will do with them is I will tell them every last bill, put it on the table. Like what bills do you have, and let's put it on the table, and then we're just going to write the checks for those. Mom and dad, Mama Faye, just know that like your bills are done. The siblings, that's another conversation. Sorry, Ariel. That's another conversation. I think with siblings, we're gonna take care of y'all. Like we're gonna take care of you. If I went to $410 million, then yes, we're gonna just take care of y'all. But if it's just $1 million or less, the take care is going to look a little different. Like there's going to be some rules of engagement for the siblings, and it's because Shirella has a few siblings. I just have the one, so we got to be equitable, and there's just a lot. So we just gotta we gotta have some rules for that. Now everybody else, I know I'm gonna also make some friends. We're gonna make some friends, but we're gonna have to, we're gonna have to come up with our own little ground rules for how that works. And there's gonna be some, Ari, I'm glad you're laughing. There's gonna be some rules of engagement for how that's gonna go. I'm not saying I'm not to give you something. So I want to make sure the people that are very close to me know that. But people be acting strange. But to be honest with you, and if I am doing anything with that amount of money, I'm not loaning it. Like I'm giving it to you. I'm not even expecting it to come back. Like I'm not expecting it to come back. At that thing, it's not even a loan. It's but there's going to be some good issues. You are going to. It's going towards a certain thing. This is the first phase of it. Now, the second thing I'm going to do is I'm definitely buying the house. And I hear when people say, buying a house outright. No, I'm buying a house. Like I'm buying it. Like I've lived enough life owing and having to do. My mom said, excellent tax attorney and investment banker, make that money work for me, family, make my family. Yes, absolutely. Yes, we're going to definitely get the tax attorney, investment banker. I'm not, remember I told you guys about just stewing. I'm not going to make that decision right away because I really got to vet this person because this person or this team is going to be in charge of a lot. And I've heard many stories of people just running away. And so I'm almost certain that the first ones that will come to the surface are going to be the sharks. And so I'm definitely going to make sure we're doing some vetting and paying attention. But I'm also letting y'all know, definitely buying a house. I hear when people say, you want to, nope, I don't want to owe anybody anything. Like at this point, at that amount of money, I'm not owing anybody anything. Like that's just not, that's taking the scripture. I'm going to be a lender, not a borrower. That's exactly what that's going to be. I'm not borrowing any more money. No, at that amount, we're not doing that. And we're going to buy the house and all that stuff. I do think, well, I'll get back to that. Let's do one more break and then I'll come back.
Focused on photo, versed in video, For Any Media brings visions to life from headshots to family shoots, casual candids to structured scenes. Our team can provide whatever you need. In Baltimore, you may have seen us at local events such as the Poly City Tailgate or the Randallstown Romp. You can find us on all social media platforms at the number 4 Any Media. For Any Media, for anything. Contact us so we can create.
So getting back to this. So yeah. So now what I will say, at that amount, there is going to be something pleasurable. Like yes, we're going to pay off bills. That's a given. Pay off all my parents' debt. I think with my siblings, and I haven't fully talked this over with Shavella, but I think with our siblings on the surface, we will pay off all their debt. I think that's fair enough, right? I think that's fair enough. We're gonna pay off all your debt. So whatever debt you have, we're just gonna pay it off. Then we'll start figuring out what that will look like later on down the road, because we'll have another we'll have another conversation because I believe that you want to be a blessing, especially to your family and stuff. So I think that's it. So I think the first rule is just going to be everybody, what debt do you have? It's almost going to be like it's time to just put it all on the table. What debt do you have? Let's get it paid off. That's what I'm going to do. But then the other thing I'm going to do, because I'm a huge fan of the TV show Below Deck. If anybody follows the show, it's about luxury yachting and that sort of thing. I will be taking some friends on Below Deck. Yes. And I think I want to do the Down Under one. I either want to do the Down Under or I want to meet Captain Lee. Although I have a suspicion that this is going to be Captain Lee's last season. So I either want to do him. I just want to meet him, or I want to do Down Under because I just love everything Australia. Definitely buying a house in Australia. That's just a given. That's what that's doing. And the way this country is set up, we may end up making that our working towards residency in Australia. But we're definitely having a house in Australia, and we're definitely going to have a beach house somewhere. And I'm definitely going to have a boat. I'm not saying I'm having a mega yacht, but I am going to have a boat. Yes, Sherella said the Mediterranean one. She's talking about Below Deck. She said the Mediterranean one seems really nice. She does, but I don't know about Captain Sandy. Well, Captain Sandy, she does do a good job with keeping things, and she keeps out for safety. So the Med, yep. So Sherella has chimed in. We're doing the Med, so we're doing the Med. We're going to the Med, and I'm doing a week long on the thing, not just a little 2-day. Sleeps and wake up. No, we sailing. Sometimes you just got to take some time and do some dreaming, right? You got to take some time and do some dreaming. And then what you do is you start putting the plan in place so that, yes, you may not win the lottery, but there's some things that you can be doing for yourself now, right? Thinking like an entrepreneur, thinking about making other streams of income, making your money work for you, putting the time in on this side of things so that you can play later on down the road. All of that are things that you can be doing, but it's always fun to just play and joke and all that stuff. So I love to just sit and dream and all that fun stuff. Well, on that note, everybody, look, we survived, right? It was just me today. I hope you all enjoyed your time on Headspace with Dr. Mike. Christy is growing spiritually. I think her bishop is in town from I think he's based out of South Carolina or something like that. And he's in town doing a workshop. So she's doing spiritual things. And then Mitchell was out hanging with the poly folk from Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, who unfortunately lost, not trying to rub it in, but they lost the Poly City game here. City College won for the 11th straight year. Congratulations to Coach Joyner, one of the deacons at our church and a very dear friend of ours. Congratulations for your 11th consecutive. Well, I don't know, you were the coach for 11 years, but you helped take them into the 11th consecutive win. But all that stuff. Aunt Vitra says, oh, yes, absolutely. We'll make sure the car is paid off. Yes, ma'am, Aunt Vitra. Well, with that end, it has been awesome to hang out with you all. Thank you so much for making Headspace with Dr. Mike the success that it is. I wish you all the best that God has for you. And until next time, peace.
Thanks for tuning in to Headspace with Dr. Mike. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to follow us on social media at Headspace DM to continue the dialogue with other Headspacers regarding today's show. Everyone is filling their headspace with something. The question is, what are you filling yours with? Tune in next week.